Hi everyone, my name is Hannah and this is my chapter 1 and 2 video summary. So I have all my notes and stuff right here. So chapter 1 is why organizational behavior matters. So it starts off with going into like walk the walk. So leaders need to work beside subordinates because of the message that it displays. It boosts morale. And then I work at a restaurant and I can definitely say that there are some managers who do walk the walk and they like help, and then there's managers that just tell you what to do, and it's not very supportive in my opinion. And then it talks about COVID, how COVID made a huge impact on businesses, which is why now it's important to prioritize connectivity and belonging in the workplace through organizational behavior. So COVID created physical distance between leaders and staff through remote work. And leaders had to work really hard to maintain engagement in other new ways. So being creative with keeping that connectivity through employees. So organizational behavior definition says it's a field of study focused on understanding, explaining, and improving attitudes of individuals and groups and organizations. So OB is important and beneficial because it explains behavior, it predicts behavior, and it influences behavior. The 4 functions of management. So number 1 is planning, number 2 is organizing, number 3 is leading, and number 4 is controlling. And these are the 4 main functions that managers carry out. And then, so planning evaluates current position. So it thinks about future, sets goals for the company, identifies strategies and resources. Organizing arranges those said resources, whether it be people or functions, to implement the strategy made during the planning stage. Then leading has to do with the managers leading effectively, motivation and communication to achieve the goals. And then controlling is just monitoring performance. And then tangible and intangible resources. So tangible is physical assets such as equipment, property, and inventory. And then intangible is organization's reputation and culture. And then chapter 2 is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the chapter starts by talking about Dolby Laboratories, which you might know because of Dolby Digital, but it's a company that's whole purpose is audiovisual technology. So the passage explains the efforts the company has integrated to support DEI. They started a blind audition technology for job applicants to complete challenges anonymously. I think this is very beneficial because something that I've always stood on is that it doesn't matter what the person looks like. It doesn't matter anything about what they look like. It's all about qualifications, skill, and personality, and that's something that I've always stood on. I think a lot of things should start doing more of an anonymous type application or something like that, because then you're truly judging them based off of how well they perform rather than what they look like. And I've always felt that way. This reduces bias in hiring. That way candidates can prove their abilities beyond what they look like. Kind of what I just said. And this also increases diversity. And then I've also kind of learned about in some of my classes too how you may not know that you have bias towards a specific group, but there's a quiz or something that you can take on your implicit bias, and you can kind of find out what subconscious bias that you have towards a specific group or anything like that. Because although you may not think that you do, you might. Their efforts increase workplace culture. A definition, so stereotyping is the tendency to believe that certain people or things share the same characteristics, and then discrimination is the unfair treatment of people and groups based on certain characteristics such as race, age, gender, religion, disability, or sexual orientation. So one of the most effective ways organizations can encourage acceptance of differences and create a harmonious workforce environment is through diversity. Race and ethnicity are 2 different things. Race is related to factors of physical appearance, such as skin, hair, eye color, and then ethnicity is associated with sociological factors, such as nationality, culture, and language. And I am way over my time, but I'm going to wrap this up. And then gender diversity is the equal representation of men and women and non-binary people in the workplace. Women still face barriers such as the glass ceiling today, which is an invisible, meaningless barrier that limits their ability to progress to senior positions. And then the chapter closes with talking about inclusion in the workplace, and that while we have come a long way, it still remains the most difficult to measure. how well we're doing with inclusion. So that's my summary for chapter 1 and chapter 2.